Hello everyone, welcome again. We are talking about cardiac septation. This is the fourth section of this lecture. In this lecture, we'll talk about the outflow tracts. This section has been further subdivided into three subsections: the truncus arteriosus, the conus cordis, and the cardiac neural crest cells. The truncus arteriosus and the conus cordis help in the formation of the outflow tracts. We'll see how they help and what adult structures are formed by both of them. And we'll also see the role of neural crest cells in the development of outflow structures. So let's talk about the truncus arteriosus. Now the fifth week of development has already begun. Now pairs of opposing ridges appear in the truncus arteriosus region. It would be this region, somewhat this region. Now the pairs of opposing ridges have appeared within the truncus arteriosus. So they form the right superior and the left inferior truncal swellings. These are mesenchymal swellings, which are two in number, and one of them is on the right and the superior edge, and one of them is to the left and the inferior edge. So the right superior and the left inferior truncal swelling. Both of these swellings grow distally to the right, distally, the right to the left and the left to the right. So both of these swellings, since both of them would be originating in this region, they would be growing distally. However, the right swelling goes to the left and the left swelling goes to the right, grows to the right. So while growing towards the aortic sac, these swelling twist around each other. So there's a twisting in the growth, like the swellings twist upon each other while growth towards the aortic sac. They foreshadow the spiral course of the future septum. Since the future septum is spiral, so they're foreshadowing the course of the future septum. So after complete fusion, they will form the aorticopulmonary septum. The aorticopulmonary septum is the septum that divides the aorta and the pulmonary trunk. These are the two outflow tracts that have been divided completely after the partition of truncus arteriosus. So recapping, two swellings appeared in the truncus arteriosus, one a right superior swelling and the other was the left inferior swelling. The right superior swelling and the left inferior swelling, both of them tend to grow distally. However, the right grows towards the left and the left grows towards the right. Now, after that, they fuse with each other and they spiral around each other to form the adult septum, which separates the developing aorta and the pulmonary trunk. So this septum divides the truncus into an aortic component. This is the aortic component and this is the pulmonary component. So let's talk about the conus cordis. Now the swellings also appear in the conus cordis, but they're not superior and inferior, but they are the dorsal and left in the left ventral walls of the conus cordis. They grow towards each other. This is the region of the conus cordis in which the swellings would tend to appear. This is an adult heart, mind you. The swellings cannot be visualized on this heart. These swellings grow towards each in distally and unite with the truncus septum. So the truncus septum that divided in aorta and the pulmonary trunk, these swellings, the conus swellings, now tend to grow towards them and finally join them. The fusion of swellings cause division of the conus. So the fusion of swellings along with each other, as well as the truncus conus swellings, would result in the division of the conus cordis. So an anterolateral portion is formed that forms the outflow tract of the right ventricle. This is the outflow tract of the right ventricle. This is the anterolateral portion of the conus, and hence an anterolateral portion of the conus is formed due to division of the conus, and this forms the outflow tract of the right ventricle. And a posterolateral portion is also formed. This shown in red. This is the outflow tract of the left ventricle and is known as the outflow tract of the left ventricle. So and a posterior medial portion, which is the outflow tract of the left ventricle. So now let's see the role of the cardiac neural crest cells. What do these cardiac neural crest cells do? So they arise in the edges of the neural fold in the hindbrain region. Alright, so they are arising in the edges of the neural folds lying in the hindbrain region. They migrate through the neural arches 3, 4, and 6 to the outflow regions of the heart, which they invade. These are the outflow regions of the heart where the outflow tracts are being formed, and this is where the neural crest cells migrate. They contribute to endocardial cushion formation. Endocardial cushions were formed in this central AV canal region. Two were on the sides, the lateral ones, and one was on the one dorsal and one ventral. So they contribute to the formation of endocardial cushions in both the truncus arteriosus and the conus cordis. They also this migration and proliferation is under the control of secondary heart field through notch signaling. This has been mentioned earlier. So the outflow tract defects may occur due to insults in the secondary heart field. Any insult to the development of the secondary heart field or the migration and differentiation of the neural crest cells may result in the defects of the outflow tract. Insult to neural crest cell would also disrupt the formation of the conotruncal septum. Conotruncal septum were the septums that helped in the formation of the outflow tracts of both the ventricles, and then the division of the outflow tracts into aortic and the pulmonary segment. The craniofacial abnormalities can also be seen because neural crest cells help in the formation of the craniofacial structures. So we're talking about the cardiac neural crest cells. They may give rise to tetralogy of Fellow, persistent truncus arteriosus, and finally transposition of the great vessels. Here in the figure you can see tetralogy of Fellow, which would be taken up in detail in a little while. So let's talk about tetralogy of Fallow. It's the most abundant defect of the conotruncal region. So when we talk about the conotruncal region, that is responsible for division of the atrioventricular canal, that is responsible for the formation of the outflow tracts of the ventricles as well as the division between the outflow tracts. Tetralogy of Fallow is the most important defect. So there's unequal division of the conus, which results from anterior displacement of the conotruncal septum. So what happens is the conotruncal septum is displaced anteriorly, as a result of which there's unequal division of the conus. As a result of all of this, we see a narrow right ventricle. Here you can see right ventricle which is narrow and small, and the outflow region of the right ventricle has been stenosed. This is known as the pulmonary infundibular stenosis. Here you can see the stenosed portion of the outflow tract. So we have a large defect in the ventricular septum. Here the ventricular septum has a large defect. Then we have an overriding aorta. This is the overriding aorta that arises almost directly above the septal defect. And then finally we have hypertrophy of the right ventricle. Here you can see the right ventricle has been hypertrophied due to increase in pressure on the right side. Now we have persistent truncus arteriosus. In persistent truncus arteriosus, the conotruncal ridges fail to form. So we talked about the conotruncal ridges which help in division of the conotrunkus. They fail to form, as a result of which there is no division of the outflow tract. So here you can see the outflow tract has not been divided at all. The pulmonary artery rises at some distance above the undivided. This is the undivided truncus, and this is the pulmonary artery which is arising somewhat above the undivided truncus. There's always defective interventricular septum. Here you can see there is a defect in the interventricular septum, as a result of which the oxygenated blood of the left side and the deoxygenated blood of the right side is being mixed and is going into the aorta as well as the pulmonary artery. This undivided truncus overrides both the ventricles and receives blood from both the sides. Here it is evident in the figure, it is receiving blood from both the sides. As a result, the efficiency of the heart drops significantly. So now let's talk about the transposition of the great vessels. So the conotruncal septum now fails to form and fails to follow its normal spiral course. We talked about this, that that truncus arteriosus, the truncus arteriosus swelling, when they fuse with each other, they spiral around each other to mimic the adult outflow tracts. However, if this spiraling fails to occur, a transposition of great vessels takes place. In this condition, the conotruncal septum, it follows its normal straight course. Now the aorta originates from the right ventricle. Here you can see this is the right ventricle giving rise to the aorta, and this is the pulmonary artery, which is arising from the left ventricle. Now there may be defects in the membranous part of the interventricular septum. We can have defects in that as well. It is usually accompanied by a patent ductus arteriosus. This is the patent ductus arteriosus which usually accompanies this condition. So this was all about this section. In this section we talked about how the outflow tracts were formed with the help of truncus arteriosus and the conus cordis. We discussed the various ridges appearing in the truncus arteriosus, ridges or swellings appearing in the truncus arteriosus and the conus cordis, their fusion with each other, and their spiraling to form the adult outflow tracts, that is the adult aorta, and the pulmonary tract, as well as the outflow tracts of the right ventricle as well as the left ventricle. Then we talked about various defects that occur due to malformations in the outflow tract. All of these defects are very important for your exam, so be prepared for it. And for further sections of this lecture, keep watching sqadia.com.